ultimately what we heard from dads is that they really expressed difficulty juggling everything and still enjoying their life. Being able to manage their time with their current responsibilities, but also being able to take on new things or bigger projects, or pursuing career growth, or pursuing hobbies or leisure time. Welcome to the Dad Central Show, hosted by Ed Gow Jr. and Drew Solon. We know dads want to see their kids succeed, but they don't always know how to get there. This show gives dads the tools they need to raise confident and successful kids.
What is up, everybody? Ed Gow Jr. here from Dad Central, along with
Drew Solon from Dad Central.
What's going on, Drew?
Well, it's June, and June is the month that I think of Father's Day. And I know it's only one day of the month, but the Canadian Men's Health Foundation, at least they've got Men's Health Week that leads into Father's Day, so that's good. So I know there's other important things that happen this month, but for me, especially being a new dad, again for the fifth time, and having Father's Day just takes on a big significance for me in the month of June. So that's what's going on for me. What's going on for you?
In conversations with many fathers all the time, and I was at an event yesterday and having a deep conversation with a gentleman I respect, an elder, and he said a very profound statement. He says, dads and fathers are not really thought about a lot. I go, really? So it was a great conversation that we had about that, and just keeps on our purpose and our alignment to help fathers and their families around the world. Can't forget a big help in all this, Dove Men Care and Dove Men Plus Care. The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact, not just only on Father's Day, but all year round. So so a lot of things going down. It's it's interesting. June is a time, depending where you are, school's out. So by the end of this month, school's out. So Drew being a new dad, it'll be very interesting how this school summer goes compared to others. But I know a lot of kids, and as we're now in a different state of the world, summer camps, things like that. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be an interesting summer. So we're speaking to dads. You have an outstanding summer ahead of you, wherever you are. I know some parts of the world it's not summer, but we're just going in a North American sense here for now.
Yeah, well, Ed, that reminds me of your theme for the beginning of the year, which was plan ahead. And that's something that we have been doing a lot of with the summer and with a new baby and, 4 other children, and keeping them active and engaged. So planning ahead is a big part of that. And I would imagine many dads have also started or have already finished that process of planning ahead for the summer. So, which also brings us, I think, to our conversation today, which is using some of the insight and information we've been gathering as hosts of the show, as working with fathers and with our email list, and talking to dads and finding out what matters to them, what are the challenges that they face, and how can we support them in meeting those challenges. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, which is a little bit different than our normal, but I think it's really valuable. And of course, being the theme of Father's Day coming up and talking about the work that we're going to be doing to support fathers, I think it's very exciting, at least, to be able to do this in this format and share it with our listeners.
Absolutely. And I think it's always good to do surveys, because we want to really know what's going on out there. And the only way we can do that is getting feedback, whether it's a survey, whether it's via emails, whether it's responses and replies to the content we put out digitally. It's really, really important to us to get the feedback. So keep it coming, because we can only get better, and fathers and their families can only get better with the feedback. Because I don't use the word assume. No, don't do it. Don't do it. So let's talk about the survey. So want to roll about the first thing that people said, or I can put it up on the screen actually.
You can definitely do it if you want. So just for context,
yes.
We polled our email list about a month and almost 2 months ago now, I'd say. And we asked them 2 simple questions. One, if there were a resource out there that could help you, what are the 2 questions that you would need to have answered by that resource. And then we asked a follow-up question: what are the top two challenges that you experience as a dad? And there were some fantastic entries, but we reviewed them and summarized them. And I think the focus of our conversation today is, what are the challenges that fathers face? And we summarize them. We actually got five categories or five topic areas that I think most dads, if you're listening, you could probably relate to. So we're just going to talk briefly about them, and we're going to share the feedback, and then we're going to talk at the end about how we want to help support fathers who are going through these challenges.
Right. Well, I'll lead off. The first one that came up, and it seems to be a constant one, whether it's our live conversations or offline conversations, balancing work and home life. Wow. Well, whether you're a father or not, I hear many people talking about this, but especially fatherhood. There's so much noise going around them, not only with the family, but internally. There's so many different variables going on in a dad's life these days, and it's not getting any less.
No, it's not. And I think the pandemic only added fuel to the fire, or threw a monkey wrench into a lot of maybe the normal functioning of most families or of homes. And there's been some eye-opening things about that fathers have now come to understand and are contributing in different ways. But there are also some really challenging things and some troubling things that all came from that. So ultimately, what we heard from dads is that they really expressed difficulty juggling everything and still enjoying their life. Being able to manage their time with their current responsibilities, but also being able to take on new things or bigger projects, or pursuing career growth, or pursuing hobbies or leisure time, or the great pause, as they call it, actually said, I want to do something different that has more meaning, but they can't figure out how to do that. So just being able to balance all that can be challenging. And I know in particular, as I've done work with, you've heard me say this before, John Maxwell, one of the keys as your level of responsibilities increase is learning how to prioritize, learning how to make good decisions with the time that you do have. Because as my good friend Paul Attia, he's been, I'm not sure he's been on a podcast yet, but he's been on a webinar. But he talks about, we're all given the same amount of time. The
Yep.
difference is how do you manage that time, and how do you use that time effectively? So I think there are definitely some practical tools and ways to improve or to be able to navigate the time that we do have. But there's also some of the elements of the mental stress and the strain and the relationships and all those other things that go into it that fathers probably need some help with, to be able to feel like they can balance all of these demands. So it's a big one for sure. And I'm certainly in the thick of it myself, as I have a newborn, a 6-week-old, and I push to get to the point where we have some structure. But it's a newborn. Newborns have no structure. It's you have to just meet their needs where they're at. And so even Kristen and I had a very interesting conversation last night, as she just is so responsive and just a beautiful nurturer. But I'm very much feeling the volume and the demands of a lot of different things pulling on me. And I'm like, okay, can we get into a normal routine and structure? And so we had a great conversation, I think really enlightening for both of us. But we were feeling a little bit of the tension that came as a result of differing perspectives. So I totally understand dads where they're at.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. I'll bring up an example. About a year or so ago, I don't like the word coaching, but I'll say mentoring or helping a father in San Francisco. And the thing is that he would finish work and drive right home and go right into the house. and he said, when I go in the house, it's like chaos and all those sort of things. And I said, well, okay, few things. How possible would it be that once you get in the driveway, you take 15 minutes for yourself? Because it's going to be chaos in there, but 15 minutes, turn off the radio, turn off your cell phone, and just give yourself, as I say, give yourself some grace and better equip yourself for what you're going to potentially going into. And, and I know we'll be talking about some solutions, a bigger solution down the end of the road. But one of the things I also like to say is that, I think that when you get up in the morning, what is the one or two things you need to get done that day? That's it. So I'll just leave it
Focus.
at that. Yeah, just one or two things, and when you get that, keep on working on that one thing till you get that done. Celebrate, take a break, move on to the next thing. So we'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. One of the second big topics was co-parenting. In particular, what our audience said to us is that they face difficulties navigating differing parenting values or differing parenting styles. Also, the challenge, very real challenge of custody and access, as it used to be
Mhm.
called, might be through the family courts or just the
Yeah.
separation process, co-parenting with adversarial ex-partners, but also being in, let's say, in a relationship, being recognized and respected by the mother of their children came up, as well as some of the things that dads expressed in the co-parenting relationship. And so ultimately, parenting is a team sport, and it requires both parties. We've heard it through our podcast and many of the guests we haven't really done a major focus on it, but when we hear them talk about the parenting and the value of working with the children's mother, we touch on it a little bit. So I think it's very important, and dads clearly are saying this is a challenge for us. We need some help and support in it.
Absolutely. And and more these days, we're seeing more and more blended families. So co-parenting is becoming more and more of an important and relevant topic for fathers and their families. So no surprise hearing about co-parenting. And I think, that's something that we're going to be addressing more and more because we're listening to what dads are saying. So what's next up?
Well, this goes hand in hand with it, but it's communication with partners was the next big challenge. Whether it be communication breakdowns, whether it was being able to understand the different expectations of a father versus a mother. Those are the types of things that fathers talked about. And I mean, I personally have some biases, and we'll talk about this shortly, but we're actually going to be addressing and focusing on three critical skills, the dad's communication skills that dads need to be effective in a partnership, but effective as a dad as well. They're fundamental. Actually, they'll help you be effective. And we'll talk more about it. But communication with partners was crucial for dads.
And I know that's another important thing. I think also communication with yourself.
Mhm.
You know, what is your, when you say something, the first person that hears it is yourself. So are you aligned with your actions and your communications, let alone your family, but a father himself? That inner communication is so key. So I think all around that communication thing is a big variable. So what's up next?
Well, before we go on next, I do want to touch on this, what you just talked
Okay.
about in terms of communication with yourself. The reason is because I just ran a 2-day strategic planning for one of my clients. And one of the, I guess, sessions that I ran for them was this idea of automatic negative thoughts, what they called ants for short. And it was more about getting an understanding of how they're thinking about circumstances, scenarios, or even the environment that they're working in. Because I guess some of this is a little bit, confidential, but the reality is working with this client group, there were some clear behaviors that indicated there were some thought patterns that people had that was limiting their effectiveness. And so the idea of when you say communicating with yourself is, what are you thinking on a regular basis? Or what are the initial thoughts that happen automatically about a scenario or circumstance, and what are they actually driving in you? So that's a very powerful and important point. Again, something we can address
Yeah. And
later on, because we're going to
yeah.
be running see, I'll just say it now. We're going to be running a series of free
Get out.
trainings for dads coming up very soon, leading up to Father's Day. But more about that after we hit. So the next one should be no mistake,
Surprise.
no surprise. Thank you. Staying calm and patient. Our dads, they want to stay present. They want to stay calm, especially during those high emotional periods, and they want to understand their children's behavior. But the reality is that's a challenge for them. And so they want tools. They want to understand, how do I do that? Because it obviously, I think it wreaks sometimes a lot of havoc for dads, more so in their guilt and their feelings of like, I shouldn't be doing it. I really want to stay calm. And they know that there's a different way that they can approach things, and they want that. Big one.
That's a skill, and it's an acquired skill, because we all have heard that term, in the heat of the moment. And I think if we can, again, getting back to planning ahead, if you can plan ahead for those in the heat of the moments, and it's easier said than done. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, but staying calm and patient, not only for yourself, but for your family, is very, very key. And in the high intense world we live in these days, it's very challenging, because the other day I had I don't know, the opportunity to drive into downtown Toronto. I was calm and patient, but I said I couldn't do this more than once every while, staying calm and patient. So that's just me. So Drew, uh,
Well,
go ahead.
that's a very important one. And there's so many stressors. I think of the conversation we had with Dr. Stuart Shanker, and just talking about the stress that's everywhere and that's on just everyone. And so it's easy to feel depleted and not have resources. And so the idea here is, not to beat ourselves up about the fact that we've got this stress. It's how do we learn to regulate ourselves? And then how do we then repair any damage that might be done when we are. So, dads, if you're listening to this and you're starting to automatically think negatively about yourself because you've yelled or you've made a mistake, don't. Easier said than done. But recognize there is one grace that Ed talks about, giving yourself grace, which is very important. But there are ways you can move through it in a better, healthier place. So don't beat yourself up. Just recognize there's tools, and we're here to help support you, which we're going to talk about very soon.
All right.
Because
So
Ed, the last one is
lack of resources. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say marches, because Drew's going to. If I had a trumpet, I'd Drew.
well, I mean, we've heard this for a while. I guess maybe because many people say, well, Dad, this is so great to find you as a resource, Dad Central. Look at the things you've got. We share with as many people as we can. But dads continue to express the need for support in their parenting journey. They're looking for community. They're looking for social supports. And the reality is that there's other challenges that kind of relate to this, affordable childcare, any specific resource for their dads and their specific experience just really doesn't seem to be out there. And so I think that's really hard for dads, because as we know from the research, dads really care about their fatherhood role and they want to be involved, supportive parents. And so we've heard this for so long that the trumpet I guess I have is that we're building and have built a resource for dads. And we're going to be rolling this resource out through a series of free trainings, just as a taste of what we have for you as dads, and specifically built for your circumstances. Dad Central's been around for over 20 plus years, and we've built resources by dads for dads. And we're dads ourselves. We're kind of in the trenches, just like I am. And, we know the reality of what it's like to have that dad experience, which is different than a mom's experience. And now there's more nuanced, more challenging, more unique circumstances that, there isn't, let's say, a rule book for all of them, but there's certainly a way to get resources and support. And that's what we're doing. So starting June 7th, we're going to be running four training classes. We're going to be focusing on these very challenges the dads have. So starting June 7th, we're going to be talking specifically about how do you be a good dad, and what value does being an involved father make for your children. So, most dads feel kind of unsure. Okay, so what do I do? Where do I even start? And so we're going to address the 6 core needs that every child has. And we're going to help dads recognize the significant value that they have in a child's life. Next, we're going to tackle this challenge of balancing all these different responsibilities. And we're going to give dads the 3 critical things that they need to know to learn how to prioritize and manage their time much more effectively. And that training is going to be on June 10th. Next, after that, we're going to then focus on this communication issue. We're going to give dads the 3 critical communication skills that they need to effectively engage in healthy relationship. And that goes pretty much everywhere, because these 3 skills are essentially the foundation. And when you know the skills and can have the ability to apply these skills, it's going to make a significant difference everywhere, starting at home. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to run a masterclass on June 16th. And that's where we're going to put all these skills together. So if you can't attend all of these, the June 7th, June 10th, June 13th, then at bare minimum, come to the masterclass on June 16th, where you're going to get an overview of all of the critical pieces that help a father be positively involved in the lives of their children. And then we're going to talk specifically about our new resource, which we've said before is called Dad Mentor. And Dad Mentor ultimately helps dads go from feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and alone to feeling calm, confident, and connected, because you're going to be in a community format with like-minded dads with the foundational resources that we have created over the years that are going to guide you. We've got something called the Dad's Roadmap, which to me, it's like your course to go from unsure to becoming an unstoppable dad, because you're going to know exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and what situation to apply it. You're going to have skills.
I don't know what I need to add on that. I think it's all there. We just encourage you to, if you can, make some time to come out. At least come to the master class. If you can't make any others, that's the cherry on the top of all these sessions. But if you can make any of them, that'd be great.
Well, here's the one thing that I want dads to know is that, we did a survey back in 2017, and most of the answers that dads gave to this question of, how do you approach your parenting? And most of the response were like, well, I just try it out. I just do my best and hope it works out. I'm not so sure that's the best way to do things, because there's so much nuance out there. There's so many challenges, and dads say they want support. So the old way of just figuring out on your own, it's not working. And if you want the new way of doing things with guidance, step-by-step plans, actionable insights, key advice at the most critical times, most importantly, a community that you come and join, that you can ask questions of, that you can hear stories from other dads, that you're getting, one of the elements of this community are master classes from experts in their field. So experts like Allison Schaefer, who is a international parenting expert, who's going to be able to come in and give you insights. People like Dr. John Olive from the UBC Men's Health Promotion. He's a Canada Research Chair. He's done extensive research on men and relationships. He's going to be involved. So we've got some fantastic people that are going to be offering you the best that the world really has to offer in these topic areas for dads. And then you're going to be able to ask questions. Of course, this is only for those who ultimately join us and become part of our community of Dad Mentor. But ultimately, we want to make sure that dads have access to the best resources that are going to help them right away. So I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a long time coming. We've finally been able to put some things together to be able to make sure this is accessible to dads. And so we want to start by just making it free. And this training is a great way to get started. So go check out dadcentral.ca/dads and access our training, again, starting June 7th. So we're really looking forward to this.
And Drew, kudos to you for all the work you've put in to make this dream become a reality. And we're really excited, not only for the dads, but for yourself and seeing this dream come true. So great work.
Thank you, Ed. It takes a village, not only to raise the children, but to be able to move projects like this forward and have something that is going to add a tremendous amount of value. So dads, don't go it alone. Come join us, find like-minded men, and let's go rock fatherhood.
Absolutely. And we're still going to end off with this. We're always going to say, if you have any comments, email us, podcast@dadcentral.ca. Dad Mentor site, dadcentral.ca/dads. Never forget the podcast, dadcentral.ca/podcast. And of course, we got resources. We got more coming, but resources right now, dadcentral.ca. And as always, we want to just end it off by saying thank you, as always, to Dove Men Plus Care. The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men can care for themselves and father and others, there is a positive impact. As always, remember to give yourself grace. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and look forward to seeing you during the trainings. See you then.